You see, I want you to show this to every single American that you possibly can so that they can understand what is about to happen to them. Every day, the Russians are chewing up more of the Ukrainian armed forces. They are killing off or wounding over 1,000 men a day. A day. And this is from Ukrainian sources, okay? That's 30,000 men a month. It is credibly estimated at this time that there are possibly as many as 70,000 dead Ukrainians, 70. And the low end of these estimates is 45,000 killed. Killed. The war is going catastrophically for Ukraine. The Russians are relentlessly winning. And they are going to take over huge swaths of territory of this country. The mainstream media is lying to you. The Russians are winning definitively. And now the Biden administration finds itself with a catastrophic loss, and so they are going to escalate. And the way it seems that they are going to escalate is by creating a situation, an incident in Lithuania. Lithuania, one of the Baltic republics, one of the members of NATO, but the Polish army is also on the move. The Polish army has been making moves on the Belarusian border. All of this leads me to conclude realistically that at this time there is the intention by NATO to provoke the Russians into defending Kaliningrad. Now, Kaliningrad, it's one of those areas that's armed to the teeth, okay? The Russians have all kinds of weapons there. The actual territory of Kaliningrad, right? They're not really worried about it. That's not the issue. The issue is Russian territory is going to be attacked by the Lithuanians and the Poles. And what are the Russians supposed to do? They're going to hit back, and they're going to hit hard. And so now it seems clear that Lithuania and Poland are setting up the conditions to provoke Russia into attacking one or the other or both. And this will draw in all the other NATO states, including the United States. Now, it doesn't take a genius to realize that the brains behind this idiotic idea are American brains, the Biden administration. There are crazies in the State Department and in the US Senate and in the Biden administration itself. They all want war with Russia. And they're sick and tired of pussyfooting around using the proxy of Ukraine to fight against the Russians. And so they want to have American troops fighting directly against Russians. This will be a catastrophe, and I will explain to you why. Because you see, the Ukrainian armed forces were NATO trained. NATO trained approximately 10 to 12,000 Ukrainian troops every year for the past 8 years. The Ukrainian armed force was the largest, best equipped, and best trained NATO army that has ever been fielded. Man for man, it was better than the American armed forces, and that's the truth. They're certainly better motivated because, after all, the Ukrainian soldiers, well, they're defending their own land from the Russian invaders. So they're better trained, better equipped, and more motivated. And they have been annihilated. What do you think will happen to Lithuanian troops, Polish troops, or American troops that go up against the Russians? They're going to be annihilated too. They're going to annihilate the Americans. And this is where the danger comes in. I don't care how much you love the American flag. I don't care how much you say that America #1 and best equipped army and all that bullshit. The fact is they're going to be annihilated by the Russians like that. And after, the Biden administration, out of panic and out of a cavalier attitude that it's no big deal, they are going to use nuclear weapons. They are going to do that. The United States has never taken off the first strike option from its menu of options insofar as the military conflict is concerned. The Russians have. The Russians have stated definitively that they will never use nuclear weapons on a first strike basis. Never. Only in response to a nuclear attack. But the Americans have never made that promise. And the Biden administration is clearly creating a provocation in Eastern Europe with Lithuania and Poland against the Russians, goading the Russians exactly as they goaded the Russians with Ukraine. Because remember, the reason this war started, and this is something that the US mainstream media will not tell you, the reason this started was because the Ukrainians had gathered their army, over 100,000 combat troops, in the Donbass, and they were getting ready to invade the Donbass and potentially invade Russia. That's why this war kicked off on the 24th of February, because the Ukrainian armed forces were going to invade the Donbass and Russia in mid-March. And that's the truth. That's a truth that is being hidden from you by the mainstream media in the United States, but that everybody outside of the United States and the Western European news bubble knows. So you have to understand that the Biden administration is goading the Russians in Lithuania and Poland over this Kaliningrad situation because they want a war with the Russians so that it will distract from the rampant inflation and the catastrophic economic situation going on in the United States. That's why they want a war. This is what's happening, and you have to tell your leaders, your congressman, your senator, whomever, to not keep on goading the Russians pointlessly. And yet at the same time, I realize that it might be futile because so many Americans are so passive. They accept evil when they see it, when it's staring them in the face. It could be that every single American in the United States listens to this video. And my fear is that they will do what they always do, which is nothing.